The first object which saluted my eyes when I arrived on the coast was the sea, and a slave ship, which was then riding at anchor and waiting for its cargo. These filled me with astonishment. Although these words were spoken directly from Olara Iquiano, this was the way many sub-Saharan Africans viewed the arrival of the Portuguese, and from this point on, the luck of the Africans was not the best. Sub-Saharan Africa has always been a region with a lack of natural resources, harsh living environments, and not to mention the lack of food all throughout its history. However, we also have to look at the very few pros of Sub-Saharan Africa and realize that details like the amount of gold in Sub-Saharan Africa during the 1400s was what was going to move them up the survival scale. Although powerful kingdoms had been established in Sub-Saharan Africa, due to the geographical structure of Africa, these kingdoms never had a chance at overpowering the powerhouses of the Portuguese Empire, or any empire for that sake. If it weren't for the amount of gold that the Sub-Saharan Africans had provided for the Portuguese Empire from the 13th through the 15th century, the Portuguese would have simply conquered the African territory. Africa's greatest chance at evolving more than the other continents was their gold. This can be supported by evidence of the trade of gold in Great Zimbabwe in the 14th century in Sub-Saharan Africa, and seeing that the trade of gold and jewelry for necessary materials was very common in Sub-Saharan Africa. In my eyes, the lack of domesticated animals in Africa played a medium-sized role in the lack of evolutionary change because although other populations were using horses for war, transportation, and farming, the Africans found alternative methods to replacing the horse and other domesticated animals. Now we move into what was stopping Sub-Saharan Africa from evolving its technological and agricultural contraptions. We know that Africa has never been the healthiest place on Earth, and this played a big role in the lack of agricultural evolution throughout its history. First of all, the terrain and soil of Africa doesn't support many forms of plant life, and the very few species of plants that can grow in Sub-Saharan Africa aren't as useful as other plants that were possessed by other continents. Now we look onto the technological placement of Sub-Saharan Africa in the 14th century. First thing that we have to look at is the use of stone weapons in Sub-Saharan Africa. From the beginning of tribes in Sub-Saharan Africa, stone has played a huge role in being able to defend territory. Although metal was used in many Sub-Saharan African tribes, we know it wasn't the most effective way to fight our battles. While other countries were evolving into using other weapons, using guns, missiles, and bombs, Sub-Saharan Africa never did evolve into using these forms of technology. There were many reasons why other continents evolved more than Sub-Saharan Africa, from soil richness to weapon choice. All these details played a major role in why Africa is the way it is today. After talking about what was right and wrong with Sub-Saharan Africa, I would have to give Sub-Saharan Africa a grade of a C-, because although they had some slight advantages over other continents like Europe and Asia conquered Sub-Saharan Africa and still have more power till this day.